All right, Dr. Schreiber, before we get started, I have to ask you, are you planning on going to the state fair or have you been to the state fair already?
I have not been to the state fair. When we moved here a few years ago, we everyone was like, "Go to the fair, go to the fair," and it was a little overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. Lots of people. We went on a Saturday afternoon in the hot sun, and it was quite an ordeal, I'm not gonna lie. But,
I know.
yeah.
No, I've gone a couple years ago, and I mean, if you can catch it on a nice day, you know what I mean, in the evening or early in the morning. I know some people are very strategic about
Mhm.
going, and it's such a tradition here in the Twin Cities. And I mean, these 12 days, by the time you guys hear this episode, it would have wrapped up a few weeks ago. But it's just such a special time in the Twin Cities for people to gather.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, again, welcome to Twin Cities Leaders. I'm your host, Kevin King, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Dr. Scott Schreiber, who is the clinical director for the Minnesota Spine and Sport Institute in Woodbury and is the East Metro's only board certified rehabilitation specialist. So, Dr. Schreiber, welcome to Twin Cities Leaders.
Thanks for having me.
I want to, continue to read some of your bio because I'm really impressed by it. And I know our listeners will be as well. But you're double board certified in rehab and clinical nutrition, named 2018 Rehab Chiropractor of the Year, and you're known for holistic post surgery and rehab and movement based healing.
Mhm. Correct.
Can you talk just before we get started, just kind of give our listeners a bit about your background, how you got started in this line of work, and also to know that you're a transplant just like I am
Correct.
to the Twin Cities.
Sure. So how I got involved, I originally went into my undergraduate studies as an engineering major, I found out quickly why I still liked math and science. I didn't want to be behind a desk all day long. I just could tell, and the vibe wasn't there. So I really kind of went on this kind of journey, like what do I want to do when I grow up, basically. And so I the undergrad I went to the University of Delaware, go Blue Hens, and my, undergraduate, they had a great, nutrition program, and so I was always interested in that from my, high school football days of weightlifting and then bodybuilding, and all that kind of stuff, and so I thought it would be really great to go into. So I transferred, went into nutrition, that's where the kind of the healthcare started, while was going through the program, they were always like, "Well, if this happens, or if this happens, or if this happens, talk to the doctor, talk to the doctor, talk to the doctor." I'm like, "Well, I wanna be that guy making the decisions." So, that's kinda where how it all happened, and I'm like, "Okay, well, what type of doctor do I wanna be?" And I was seeing a chiropractor at the point at that time. I had been through injuries, and it's been super helpful with me personally. So that's how it happened. I mean, nothing too exciting or crazy, just me trying to figure out my way in the world and what I wanna do when I grow up.
So
So, yeah.
as you were being rehabbed and taken care of, it made you realize that that's something that you want to be to other people in a profession or as a profession.
Absolutely, I have this passion for just helping people and really assisting them on their, journeys, and we see a lot of different cases where just either chronic conditions or they've been everywhere and they have nowhere to turn, and we, fortunately, can help them and really, change their lives, and that's really, really cool. So I
Mhm.
really like that.
Well, our topic today and what we're discussing is really like living out your core values when establishing culture. And one of the things that impressed me about you, Dr. Schreiber, when we first met, is that when I first walked into your office, when I looked to the left, one of the first things I saw above the complimentary water and and, and, and drinks, beverages, healthy ones too, by the way, was your core values. And, I looked at them, I took a picture, and they had integrity, unsuppressed experience, inclusivity, modern science approach, grit, relationships are valued, and relationships are valued. And so I really liked seeing that from a provider, in a clinical space. I'll preference this by saying that I consulted, for, a chief financial officer and a CEO of a hospital in Wisconsin, 2 hospitals for over 2 years, at each, hospital, and one her core values, um, were healthy dialogue, everyone's voice matters, accountability, resilience, and trust. So it was this heart culture was the acronym, and we built a system of culture and leadership around those principles. So I have a ton of respect for how long it takes to implement this type of work, but I'm also too fascinated by the fact that you're doing it at the provider and the clinical level. Can you talk to me about how you came up with those core values and how they began the implementation process?
Sure. Well, and let me start too at where previously where I was working was out east, and they had core values, but basically all of a sudden this thing appeared on the wall that says these are our core values, and I look at this thing, I'm like, we don't do any of those, you know.
Right.
So it's like, okay, that's great, but that quite honestly, as the employee at the time, that means nothing to me, but also at for the patients, it just it's like words on a wall. So, I really I moved to the Twin Cities in 2018, and just trying to figure out moving forward, what do I want this practice to be? And yes, there's some of me in those core values too, but what we ended up doing, it was a snow day actually, and I knew I was going to do this, but it was perfect timing because no, uh, we had some cancellations, so we had a big gap of time. So I sat down with my team, and I wanted, I said, basically, who are we? And we came up with a big long list of terms, and then we started to okay, well, these 2 are the same, and so we started kind of eliminating them down to, like, what is the real core of who we are as a, as a business, and as practice, and so that ended up with those 6 core values, you look at all of them, it's not just one, it's like kinda we're all this kinda mishmash, but, really, we wanted people to, come as they are, and be comfortable in our space. There's your inclusivity piece. We work hard, and when no one is looking, and when times get tough, there's your grit. I mean, so we can, we value the relationships not only with our patients, but our their families, our community. We do our best to give back in multiple ways. There's your relationships are valued, unsurpassed experience. I mean, we all know. I mean, I was thinking about this before we started talking. Like, what's my um, healthcare not good story? Because we've all been in these where you walk in an office or you're in a healthcare place, and it was just. Ooh, that was cold, and I'll tell you mine. And this is kind of where we came up with our is where my first daughter was born, and my wife was the night after, and so she's kind of going through it a little bit, and so she's asked me, "Hey, can you go up to the nurses station and I need something?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I walk up to the nurses station, and there's someone sitting there looking down at like the desk, and they wouldn't look up, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, "Okay, well, we're just gonna sit here and wait, and we're gonna play the game," and when she looks up, then I will and so it was a good 7 or 8 minutes that I actually sat there and waited, and then she looks up with the dirty look, I'm on break. Well, then no one is here. I go, "Well, my wife's having X, Y, and Z issues. We just had our baby. We need someone to check on her." You know what I mean? And that was the and it was like, I will never forget that because it's like, how would number 1, like, I mean, how do we know that she wasn't in a medical situation, serious, where she needed some emergency care? We she would have no idea, but she was on break. And again, I understand that, and you maybe shouldn't be behind the desk. I mean, there's different ways. I'm not criticizing that, whatever, but that's really stood out to me as a healthcare provider. Like, I never want my patients to experience that. So we and it's just and how do we do things? We're very, very different. We greet people by name. That relationship piece in there again. We want to make sure we take care of. them, and it's not only give them an experience. When I say it's just not a visit, it's an experience. You come in here and it's different in every way possible. And that's really important to me and to our team because if you can go anywhere. Why would you come to our office when you can go anywhere? This is why. Our expertise, just how we treat you, how you're from beginning to end. So
Mhm.
yeah.
What you said is impactful in this way because I feel like, a lot of people, we've all been patients before, right? We all
Mhm.
have to go into
Yeah.
to the doctor and see somebody. And oftentimes, we don't want to be there. It's the last place that we want to be is in a healthcare facility because oftentimes it means that something's wrong, right? And so, we
Mhm.
would rather spend our time somewhere else. However, I've learned that, even in the consulting work and what you just said, that point of greeting, that entry point, that first time that you meet someone or you interact with the patient is 100% tells people what the culture's like, right?
Mhm.
Right off the bat. If you're in that example, if someone says I'm on break, they prioritize themselves, right? I mean, they have not prioritized the care of the patient. And so I just think that's so important when we talk about, just having values on the wall, but actually how to live those values and also to how to practice them and make sure that they are being carried out
Mhm.
consistently. So I appreciate you for saying that.
Sure.
I want to ask you about when you I know, like, when we started it at the hospital, it was a large undertaking because it was, 50 leaders in a down line, over 500 people that's employees that these leaders are seeing. It takes more time.
Absolutely.
In your space, in a clinical space where you don't have as many people, it may take less time. However, that doesn't mean that it's always easy. So, how were you able to not only implement it, um, but then figure out like how do you hire to it, right? Because now you have a, let's just say, 10 or 15 people in your clinic, it's really going to show if someone's not on board with core values.
Well, I was just gonna say that, if you have 500 people and 10% of them aren't on board, then you have 450 that are versus 10% of my 8 team members, that's a big difference. Like you said, you'll know it and you'll see it. But how to hire to it, I mean, everything like our we do 2 well, number 1, if we have, ads out and whatever, Indeed or wherever, the ad is worded in a way and it talks about our core values. When they respond to, the potential candidate will respond to the ad, we have a list of pre-qualifying questions that are really core value related. And I mean, something like, how do you exemplify these, in your daily life or whatever? And we take that very seriously. And if they don't answer the question or if I mean, that's just a red flag for us. We also have them, do a short video so we can actually see them and see how they interact. And again, I I understand, it may be nervous, and we take all that into consideration, but, that gives us a little bit more, uh, information, and so we can see how that particular person, um speaks, and if are they a good fit? They pass that step, then we'll do a phone interview, again, asking some more core values, and then they'll have them come into the office, and again, a lot of the questions are core value related, and looking for basic things, that we are looking for so that we can make sure that they fit our model.
And how has it been? Like, when you look at these applications, I mean, do you feel like, people are communicating with those their values are?
They do, and quite honestly, when they do, a lot of them don't. That's good. They don't fit. It can be a needle in a haystack at times.
Mhm,
And that's when we're looking. And this is my personal philosophy or opinion. I'd rather not have that person, and maybe we got to work a little harder than have a person here that is does not exemplify those values. Because
mhm.
again, we've all been there in the past, and that it just it can create, a virus, and then it just infects other team members, and we don't want that. We want people to be happy, about the mission, about our vision, and really just provide high quality, patient first care.
I find that initially when people start to talk about their value base or their establishing culture, sometimes you're gonna lose people right at the beginning just because that just might not be their thing. But as you get going with it and you start hiring to the culture, right, then your culture really starts to get established because now you're bringing in those people that are modeling those behaviors, and now it's not just 5 out of 15 people, but then it gets to be 12 out of 15, 13, and ultimately, everyone is modeling those behaviors. And so I really like seeing that. And I also too like to acknowledge the fact that people like to be acknowledged. When we're talking about modeling a behavior, or we're talking about, um, contributing to a culture, recognition is important, I believe. And I see that you do that through this championship belt. And so I gotta ask you, were you a wrestler growing up? Are you a WWE fan, or how did this belt get incorporated into your recognition?
Sure. So I'm a closet WWE guy. I'm not gonna lie. I was more obviously more into it when I was a kid, and you had these larger than life like characters and the belt, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and when I was like 9 years old, I had like a styrofoam one for myself, and all, and all the things. But what we did, I was trying to find a way. How can we recognize people and make it fun and just a little different than what you normally see. So I'm racking my brain. I'm like, I want a championship belt, and so every month, what we do, we have a bot, like a little kind of compliment box, if you will, and each team member will put a compliment or a, hey, you did a great job with this and this, and they'll circle the core value, and those, oh, you exemplified great. This is how you did it. Put it in the box. So then we pull them all out at the end of the month, and we read them out to each other, and whoever gets the most wins. And then they're the champion for the month. And then after every month, whoever is the most at the end of the year gets a nice big prize, which is to be determined at this time. But we're working on it. So I do have the belt. If you guys want to see it, I can show you what we
Yes,
what we've done.
please.
Um, Here it is. Here, it's kind of shiny. But
Oh, I
here,
like I like it.
so yeah,
So,
here's our. So yeah, so basically, it's
let me see
we
it
put
again. It
out.
says core values. Let me see it again, Dr. Schreiber. Pull it
Oh,
up again.
absolutely.
Okay, core values, Minnesota Spine and Sport Team Champion. I like it. It's in silver, like a chrome silver with
Yeah,
a royal blue and black, right? Your colors, is
yes.
that it?
And then we got, we got on the sides, we got the logo and all that. And if you can see, the values are all written on there as well. And yeah,
Okay.
so yeah.
Well, we gotta know now, who was your favorite wrestler growing up? When
Oh,
you
geez. Oh, I'm trying to think. I, I liked them all. I'm not gonna lie.
Randy Savage.
Oh, Randy Savage was great. I mean, Hulk Hogan was great back then.
Yeah.
Y- you
Jake the
know,
Snake.
oh, Jake the Snake was great too. Love that little snake. And I mean, even, you see them now, and I mean, in some of these stories, it's pretty interesting just to kind of see what happened to some of these guys. But yeah, all the
Yeah.
guys were great. Andre the Giant. I mean, he just,
The Iron
yeah.
Sheik.
Yes, yes, yes. The mustache, yeah.
Yeah, Booker T. I know all of
Mhm.
'em. I
Great
used
guy too. Yeah.
for WWE. Yeah, I know. I love it too. It is entertainment. All right. All right, Dr. Swiber. So I want to do some rapid fire questions with you here. And so I want you to be ready for these. There are three quick questions I want to ask you to give our audience a background, a little bit more about you. So first thing in the morning, do you start your day by reviewing patient charts or checking in with your team?
Checking in with the team first thing in the morning.
Okay. Treatment dilemma. A patient insists on a method you don't recommend. Do you educate clinically or lead with empathy and compromise?
Number 2, and and then I would say kind of a combo. I empathy, educate, and then we work together as a team to come up with the best, treatment plan according to their, values.
Okay. And then would you rather teach stress management or prescribe supplements?
Um, wh what's easier is prescribing supplements. What I think is better is teaching stress management.
Stress management? Okay. Okay. Um, you have a disagreement, 2 of your employees have a disagreement. Do you step in and mediate, or do you, coach them out of the situation?
Coach them out of the situation.
Why?
I think it's better. I mean, again, this is from my personal experience. You throw two people into a room, and it could get real ugly real fast. Let's work together, and we, again, we're eight different people, eight different personalities. We come from eight different backgrounds. There's a lot that can be wrapped up into this. And again, a lot of the times it's something as simple as miscommunication, or I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. So let's
Mhm.
not try to blow this up. There are times where you have to, and again, it doesn't happen a lot, but really, it's let's work through this. Hey, you don't know where Jane has been today. We don't know what happened to Sally right before she walked in. But again, we try our best. We call it the bubble. So, like, when you come in here, you're in a bubble. Like, we only can control what we can control in the office. The politics, the stock market, all those things we can't control. So we only can control what we can control. So that's how we try to stay in the bubble. That's what we try to talk about.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks for playing that game with me.
Sure.
You know, when I was doing my research on you in your department, I love or your clinic. I love how active you are on social media.
Mhm.
And, I've seen your Instagram post, and I believe Allison is the one who makes your post.
She does a way better job than me. Absolutely.
But they're funny, and they're lighthearted. But I wanna know, like, how are you able to bring levity to a space that oftentimes is serious, when people are coming in because they have injuries or whatnot, but you guys have been able to strike that balance. Talk to me about that.
So again, let's go back to, I'm sure you or the listeners have been into a situation where you walk into the doctor's office and you're like, oh gosh, like, you are not listening to me whatsoever. This is like, you got your 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and then they're out the door. And it's like, we've got to, so we try to again, we're try to be different. Yes, we bring a little fun into some of the posts, kind of showing, like, our audience, just kind of the background, if you will, and kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit. But again, I think it also shows that we're human beings, and that we do things outside of the clinic, or we are invested, in our team, in some of the team posts and things like that, but also, like the little humorous ones too. We try to really show kind of what we're about, and really throw yes, here's this humorous post, but there's the serious, kind of little message that goes along with that. So we try to bring it all together. I'm not gonna lie, that's what people want to see. There's the views there, a piece of it too as
Yeah.
well. But we're trying to combine everything, and really take it to the next level, and really show the world kind of what we're about.
Well, whose idea was that? Because again, I think it's genius that you've leaned into it. And
Mhm.
again, I mean, social media is a big part of branding
Right.
in our space today. So, I mean, how were you at first opposed to it? Did you have any trepidation about it at the beginning? Or tell me, like, how you felt about it initially.
So so personally, I had mixed feelings, where I didn't want to diminish our brand because I've seen some of the posts that go out there. I'm like, okay, this is like too much. But at the same time, I wanted something, like, just like I said, I wanted to pull it back a little bit, and so people can see who we are. And like I said, Dr. Fleming, she does a great job. She has, that's her mind works real good in that social media space. Again, of course, she's 20 years younger than me too. That's probably why. But, but yeah, I mean, but really, and so, like, again, as a leader, I'm like, this is not my strong suit. This is hers. So I'll allow you to give you the creative freedom, just keep me in the loop, and if I'm basically a prop in some of them. So if whatever you need, I'll be happy to help. But yeah, so like we will periodically will okay kind of lay out like what do we want to show, and like again, this is her on her kind of world. What are the trends? What are people liking? What kind of music? Putting all that piece of it together, and then we'll come up with like a nice little plan, and then we release it out to the world, film it, and go.
I love that. Do you have do you have a favorite one?
Favorite post?
Yes.
Gosh, probably anyone that I'm not in. No, I'm kidding. No, gosh, there was one that was like, oh gosh, she comes in and it's just like I'm trying to think of what it was. It was like she I forget who she is, but she's just like, "Oh my god," and it's just like this whole thing is like, "This is nice," and it goes on as it was a trending audio, but it was just really funny and just how she went about it. Yeah, but yeah, those that was probably my favorite.
No, that is I'm glad that you guys do that. Again, I've watched them on Instagram and really enjoy them. When we talk about either your social media strategy or even to, with the rapid fire questions that I just asked you, you know, can can you tie that back into your core values? Like, is the reason why you answered or the reason why you do the things that you do, is that just wrapped into the core values?
Oh, yeah, I mean, personally, as well as, as in the business, those core values are me, those core values are the business, and again, as we put it all together. So, yeah, everything we do is really, they always, I mean, in my business, whatever, close classes, all the hiring, all the firing, all the stuff needs to be focused on core values, but you gotta live it, and I think that's the part that if it's not you, then you got the wrong values. I mean, you can't change, like poof, like overnight. I mean, there's so and again, I think the other thing with the core values too, like ours are on our wall, but maybe in 10 years, 5 years, what if they change? What if they take a little direction? That's okay. I mean, they're not set in stone, but I do think the actions that you take as a business owner, need to reflect those, and really that comes with you. It's not just this thing. It's not that thing on the wall. It is those. That is you. This is who you are, and this is what you're about. So,
If you were to give advice to a young business owner or someone who's about to start their business, and they want to lead with core values and to create their culture, what advice would you give them?
Uh, I mean, that's where you need to start. And again, it took me a while to figure out like how I wanted to do that. And I brought the team in, and like we couldn't. I didn't know. What I mean, and I knew what I was, but I didn't know what it was. And really sitting there before and take that time. I mean, and for us it was hours. And I mean, and then I like stewed over it for a while and was like, and really thought about it. Is this who are you? And just my suggestion, just what we did, write everything down, and again, just it's brainstorming, rapid fire, and then really go back and then start kind of eliminating those that are either duplicates or like, yeah, this one's not that good, or whatever it is. And then, or this one, is part of this, and then you'll start to feel where you're at, and then go from there. The other thing, look at other companies, and look at their values, just so you can get an idea of what it's all about. Do your research. I mean, you have to spend the time to do it. But if you don't do it now, I mean, then and this is, like I said, this was 2022 or 2021 when kind of, when we put this together. I was, 3 years kind of floating there, kind of, paddling both ways kind of a thing. And, again, not knowing, but then here we are now. So now we have kind of a goal, and then we have our vision, but the core values are taking us to the vision, I should say, if that makes sense. Definitely, you wanna make sure that you lead with the core values and take that time and do it on the front end, and they can change versus waiting. Don't do what I did, because then, like, you're kinda, like I said, paddling both ways, and you don't have that who are you as a business, and it's really important because then you're going to attract the people, the patients, customers, that share those same values, and that's really, really important.
This segment is sponsored by Kowalski's Markets. where it's all about the joy of good food. Well, Dr. Schreiber, I'm going to ask you this one question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is a Twin Cities gem, hidden place, or event that you think more people should know about?
Oh gosh. Um, so I'm gonna go with a restaurant that my family likes. It's in Minneapolis. It's called Reverie. Okay, it's a plant-based restaurant. Those that aren't plant-based would never know. And this interesting story when we moved here. How I even found them. They were a food truck at some place, and apparently they had a brick and mortar place, but then something happened, and so they became a food truck, and then they like, I don't know, they built themselves back up, and now they got this another. They got the brick and mortar place again and the food truck. They have a cool outside space, and yeah, you just kind of hang out, and it's a nice space. I like it.
Awesome. And what's the
Yeah.
name of it again?
It's called Reverie,
Yep.
Reverie, Reverie.
Got it. Well, Dr. Schreiber, I really appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me on Twin Cities Leaders and about this topic that I think is very important. I think, is going to help a lot of people. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you guys for listening to Twin Cities Leaders. You can find me on Instagram at Twin Cities Leaders or on Spotify, and also on YouTube. So I will see you next week. Bye now.